Hey guys, Soseztheleadr here. We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for the following excerpt reading. The next excerpt reading installment will be from this book. It's a short book, but it's from my Sleuths Seven series. It's called A Duo of Green Ghosts as Haunted House Hosts. If you're wondering where I got the title from, you probably have watched the Scooby-Doo series where the Mystery Inc. gang had fought the green ghosts who had invaded Mystery Island. Well, this book is based on that episode. So let's start reading. This scene introduces the heirs of an eccentric billionaire's fortune. The eccentric billionaire has promised to remember two of the super sleuths in his will. Right now, they're all inside Mystery Island Castle to hear the reading of the will. Let's read. The super sleuths met four others when they had entered what seemed to be an old library. One was an elderly woman in a gray beehive wig and a green blouse and skirt. Another was a man with a medium build and a huge nose. The third was a man with salt and pepper hair and a mustache to match. And the final guest was another man with a build and a turned up nose to make him resemble a mutant pig. And at the far end of the room, before the fireplace, the tall, stout man in green cleared his throat. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming. He eyed Roxy and R2 and said, Miss Norrington, would you and R2 take a seat next to Mr. Slicker, please? Roxy nodded and sauntered uneasily to the seat behind the salt and pepper-haired man and sat down. R2 lay on the floor beside her. Again, thank you for coming. The tall, stout man began again. My name is Jebediah Creeps. I was the late Colonel Beauregard's co-attorney. My partner, Mr. Zachary Crowes, could not make it tonight. Miles gulped at the mention of the names he just heard. Creeps and Crowes, he realized. They sure picked the right lawyers for this job. As you know, Colonel Beauregard was a little eccentric, Mr. Creeps began, holding up a large black disc. His only instructions were to play this record for you. Then he placed the record on a turntable equipped with a special needle, placed that needle on top of the record, and turned a crank at its left. On that note, a voice Roxy was familiar with, equipped with a southern accent, emanated from the device. Hello, all! Cousin Simple, Nephew Norville, sweet cousin Madeline, cousin Slicker, and my old friends, Roxy Norrington and R2. Now it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty of the inheritance of the fortune. Y'all are entitled to an equal share of my fortune of $1 billion, provided that each of y'all spend one night in this very castle on Mystery Isle. Well, that shouldn't be too bad, Helena told herself. The castle is haunted, Colonel Beauregard's voice continued from the phonograph. Miles gulped again on this note and repeated in a small voice, Haunted! Yes, haunted, Colonel Beauregard insisted, as if he'd heard Miles' small protest. And furthermore, If one of y'all plans on leaving, their share of the fortune will go to the remaining heir or heirs. Now good night, y'all, and pleasant dreams. Maybe. There was a short but evil laugh from the record before it stopped playing. Then Mr. Creep said, "Well, that is all for now. I shall return in the morning to see which of you remains, if any." He let loose his own evil laugh as he picked up his briefcase and darted out the front door with a huge slam. Guys, I know we're supposed to be spending the night here, but I'll see you later, Miles said, and started for the front door himself. Miles! Luan exclaimed, causing him to stop short. You know for a fact that we stick together. Through thick and thin, said Roxy as she rose from her seat. Besides, we might get through the night without even seeing anything spooky. The girl's right, said Norville, the man with the medium build and the huge nose with the same southern accent. I say we turn in at this moment and lock our doors. Yeah, but what do you want to turn into? Ashley joked. Norville's right, said Cousin Madeline, the elderly woman in green. It's time to go to bed anyways. How about we spend the night here some other time? Miles suggested uneasily. Some other time like when? Roxy wondered. Some other time like no! Not Miles asked, finishing in a high-pitched voice before making a run for the door. However, Helena caught him by the back collar of his shirt and pulled him back toward her. Then she quipped at him, "Okay then, happy Noel." On that, Miles just glared back at her from over his shoulder, muttering under his breath, "Turncoat." So I decided to start things off by livening things up, and as you know, they're going to be spending the night on Mystery Island with several of the other heirs. Let's continue reading. This is when the super sleuths are about to get involved in a mystery that they're going to try to solve. It happens after one of the heirs has suddenly and mysteriously disappeared. Let's read. When Ashley took the rest of the super sleuths to another room, they discovered it all a shambles, with the comforter of the bed unraveled and the closet practically empty, except for a few raggedy undershirts and undershorts. What happened here? Luan wondered. Cousin Slicker's disappeared, Helena reported. It seems he was kidnapped. But how did the kidnapper get in? Luan asked. Beats me. However, this note was written from the dust on the mirror. Look! As she pointed toward the mirror over the dressing table, Luan read on the far left, Luan read the words, "The first is gone, the rest will go, unless you leave the island and row, row, row." And it's signed the Phantom Shadow, Luan finished with a gulp. Miles gulped as well as he repeated in a small voice, "Phantom Shadow!" Then he decided, "Okay, it's official, I am out of here!" "Fine," Helena said. "We're just faced with 3 problems we have to take care of." 3 problems? Miles repeated. "Helena's right," Heather Winchester agreed. "First off, we're not going to let some spooky specter scare us off. Second, Why is the phantom shadow suddenly targeting the heirs of Colonel Borgout's fortune? Good, we'll maroon here until morning, when the silver macerator can recharge the solar batteries. So we're going to have to solve this case whether we want to or not, Helena insisted. It's time to don our jackets and recite our motto. And Miles, I want you to be brave and help us. Can you do that? Sure, Helena. Miles repeated uneasily and told himself repeatedly, I gotta be brave. He repeated the words as a question and then as an uneasy declaration again. However, as soon as he heard himself say those words, he suddenly shifted gears and decided, I gotta be some kind of a nut! But as he darted back toward the bedroom door and with a shout of, Get away! Helena seized the nape of his shirt and neck and hindered him from running any further. Oh, no, you don't, you scaredy cat, Helena declared. You're gonna be brave no matter how chicken you are! Miles only continued to run in place, letting out a blubbering whimper which soon turned into an imitation of a chicken's clucking. On this, Roxy cast a sidelong glance at Luan and asked her, You guys sure he wasn't Chicken Little in a past life? Because now he's acting like the sky is falling. On that note, everyone except Miles began laughing, and after a moment he himself joined in. Then the super sleuths headed back to their adjoining rooms and donned their jackets, which were fire engine red, streaked with black around their waistlines, and matching horizontal chest stripe, each complete with a logo of the magnifying glass emblazoning the back of each jacket and sporting a black number 7 within the circle. After they had all dressed for the occasion, they reunited in one place and recited their motto chant. Any time, Luana began, and any place, Miles went on. The SS7, Roxy continued, are on the case! The group chorused in unison, each one running a V sign past their eyes. So, as you can see, the Super Sleuths 7 have dressed for the occasion and are on their way to solve the mystery on Mystery Isle. Let's continue reading. Oh, this is the scene where the Super Sleuths 7 find a secret passage underneath the Mystery Island castle from Cousin Slicker's room. Let's start. Let's begin. Let's read. The Super Sleuths 7 made their way through the dark tunnel extending from the secret stairs they had found in Cousin Slicker's room. As the music grew louder, the group suddenly came upon a fork in the path, with 2 tunnels at the end, one at the left and one at the right. Okay, which way do we go? Luana wondered. Havaria listened for the music again, but it bounced off the cave walls, and she reported, no way to tell. Just then Havaria was caught off guard by a shriek behind her, and she whirled to see a cringing Ashley clinging to Luan's waist. Ashley, what's wrong? Harry asked. Whimpering and shivering, Ashley pointed above her. Havaria followed her finger to see a small, pointy-eared creature, seemingly hanging upside down with a pair of wings folded in. A bat! Roxy realized, also looking upward. Aren't you and I being targeted by some ghostly kidnapper and you're freaking out over one little bat? She shook her head and muttered half to herself, we're in trouble. Maybe not, said Miles. Roxy, you told us you could communicate with animals. Maybe. As he let the thought dangle, Roxy discovered what he wanted her to do. Of course, bats use sound waves to find their way to the dark caves. so they can help us find that organ that's playing. Havaria finished. All right, Roxy, go for it. Roxy nodded and struck her usual pose. She exclaimed, "Natural source, guardian force!" On that note, the pupils of her eyes tinted themselves a hot pink, and then a veil of hot pink butterflies engulfed Roxy and changed her clothes from an ordinary hot pink shirt and blue jeans to a beautiful two-piece neon green top and shorts. Finally, Roxy executed several forward flips as she danced gracefully along the hot pink energy veil, which boosted her out of view and then became a ribbon of energy that, after a few moments, transformed into large green neon wings, which she joined to her back as she flew back into view. Then she turned around once, showed off her new look, and struck her final pose with one hand on her hip. "Honestly, now that I know about Roxy, I will never get used to that," Helena murmured as she watched Roxy take to the air toward the bats that slept upside down while hanging from the cave's ceiling. In her fairy form, Roxy hovered amidst the sleeping bats and closed her eyes. On that note, an energy wave emanated from her forehead as she murmured softly, "Brothers and sisters, creatures of the cave, awaken and aid us in our quest." The energy wave shot toward a trio of bats, who all slowly opened their eyes and turned themselves upright, flapping their wings as they hovered themselves. On this, Roxy told the bats, "Lead us to the source of the distant music." The three bats screeched their approval and flew behind Roxy, passing the rest of the group as she flew back toward the ground and informed them, "Follow those bats!" Then, as Roxy flew ahead of the group, Helena told the gang, "Well, you heard the fairy, let's move!" and started out after Roxy, with the other sleuths following suit. Roxy heard the organ music get louder as she flew toward the torchlit tunnel. A moment later, she stopped suddenly when she eyed the bats, who circled around a spot about a foot away from where she was standing. She turned toward the rest of the group and reported, "The organ is just around this bend, you guys. Everyone stay close together." Wah! She had suddenly broken off her thought when she felt a hand seize her wrist and pull her around the corner. "Roxy!" Havaria cried as she heard the fairy scream echo around the corner. She ran toward the bend, only to see an ornate gold pipe organ, whose keys appeared to be moving by themselves. "Heather, what's going on?" Luan asked as she and the others ran toward her from the rear. "Roxy's disappeared," she told her. "Someone pulled her around the bend and then no sign of her. All I saw was this pipe organ." "Okay, that's it," Miles declared. "Ghost is out of the bag! I am out of here!" However, as he turned tail and tried to run away, he ran past Helena, who simply seized the back collar of his t-shirt and prevented him from running any further. So, as you can see, Roxy got captured by an unknown kidnapper, and now the super sleuths have to find a way to get her back before anything unfortunate happens to her. Let's continue. This scene is a bit so. It's not one of my favorite scenes, but it reveals what the Phantom Shadows are. He reveals what the Phantom Shadows are and the plan that the Phantom Shadows have to do away with the heirs. Luan ended up on the bottom of the heap when the sleuths had fallen on top of each other after the organ had spun them into the new room, which seemed to be lined with wine racks. One by one, all of them picked themselves up, with R2 being the first to slide off the top and onto the floor, followed by Ashley, Miles, Helena, and Havaria. As all of them finally managed to disentangle themselves and all got back on their feet a moment later, Luan wondered as she dusted herself off, "Why am I always the one on the bottom of the heap?" "Because you're taller than most of us and you can break our fall easier," Miles quipped. Luan merely cast a lopsided grin at him in response, but then she decided to change the subject as she remarked, "Seems that organ was what didn't fit a pattern. It led us into this wine cellar. The question is, what happened to Roxy?" Helena wondered. Guys?" Helena actually suddenly prompted uneasily as she pointed with a quivering finger over toward a dark corner of the room. Look over there!" Miles followed her finger and cried out in surprise himself. "Yikes!" he exclaimed. "Looks like wine is not the only thing in this cellar." He pointed and told everyone, "Look!" Helena looked in the dark corner and cried out in shock as she realized, "Coffins! 6 of them! And one of them is," Luan gulped, "dog-shaped. Does that mean that Roxy—" Miles began uneasily. "Not necessarily," Havaria injected before he finished. "We still need to keep an open mind about this mystery. How about you keep your mind closed and let the coffins do the opening?" Miles came back uneasily. "Huh?" Havaria wondered as she turned to see the coffins opening with a collective creak. She drew in a sharp, surprised breath as she discovered Roxy and all four of Colonel Blorgarn's relatives lay within each of the 5 occupied coffins, all seemingly deathly still and wearing peaceful expressions. "Daisy, woo!" Luan exclaimed. "It's Roxy and the other heirs!" Helena realized. "I can't believe it," Ashley moaned, her voice cracking as she felt tears prick behind her eyes. "Roxy was so young, and she was stripped of her future like that!" She punctuated her sentence with a snap of her fingers. But R2 sniffed the air and then approached the coffins carefully, causing Helena to exclaim, "R2, no! It's too late for Roxy! You can't save her!" I'm not so sure of that." R2 came back calmly as he sniffed Roxy's body within the coffin. I figured as much," he muttered, half to himself. "What?" Miles wondered. "Roxy couldn't have been dead for more than a few minutes, so there shouldn't be any kind of smell." "You don't have to worry about Roxy or anyone else in these coffins," R2 declared. "What do you mean?" Luan asked. "All I smell is freshly dried paint," R2 reported. "Someone created lifelike mannequins of the heirs and placed them in these coffins." "But who?" Helena asked him, just as she heard a sinisterly loud laugh that made her cringe. "What was that?" Ashley asked uneasily. Miles' eyes widened as he pointed at the shadowy figure behind one of the large wine racks. "I think I know! Look!" As the rest of the group followed his finger, they noticed the shadow as well, with its seemingly glowing red eyes, and it let out another sinister laugh. "The Phantom Shadow!" Luan realized. But then, that shadow moved from behind the wine rack to reveal its form. It was a green-robed figure with the same grotesque red eyes and matching mouth, which was frozen in a scream. "Only that shadow isn't a shadow!" Helena realized. "It's a green ghost!" But then that laughter began to intensify, and as Ashley looked to the left, she cried out in fear as another green-robed figure same as the first, emerged from the far left to join its twin. Guys! Ashley prompted, pointing. As they followed her finger, she asked them, Is it just me, or do you guys see too? Havaria scanned the area until she noticed another opening in the far end. Then she told everyone, Guys, through that opening! Miles followed Havaria's gaze to see the opening at the far wall and ordered, You heard the girl, let's move! On that, the 6 sleuths ran toward the small opening hewn out of the wall. So, as you can see, the sleuths have just encountered the Phantom Shadow, and actually the Phantom Shadows, and they turned out to be green-colored ghosts who are trying to terrorize them. Why? Who knows? I hope you enjoyed this little excerpt reading. If you like my excerpt reading installments, be sure to like, comment, and share this video. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Be sure to check out my Amazon author page. The link will be in the description. This is Soseztheleadr signing off. Peace out. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.